I am not a scientist, like the two people I'm sandwiched between today. I'm merely a lover of film and slugs, privileged to make the case for both of them before you. So surely everyone here today has seen the classic 1988 masterpiece, Slugs. For those of you who haven't, please rush out and go to Blockbuster as soon as we're done here. But for the sake of this afternoon's talk, I will summarize. A ragtag team of townsfolk, as partially depicted here, fight back against the carnivorous slugs terrorizing their community. Why is this the right time to make a case for Slugs the movie to receive a retroactive nomination for Best Picture of 1988? We're 37 years on. Well, for one, we find ourselves inundated with bad news about what's happening with our environment. To top it off, this comes amidst a moment of our own regulatory bodies and aid agencies in turmoil. Both of these are important themes tackled unabashedly in the film Slugs the movie. I've included industry buzz as a bullet point here because I suspect that after this presentation, we'll see influencers start talking. So what does the competition look like? These were the 1988 films nominated for Best Picture. So before digging into why Slugs the movie should have been among their number, let me just quickly run through why these should not have been nominated. And I'm not just using my own words. I will be sharing the words of celebrated New Yorker film critic Pauline Kael. Rain Man. The Accidental Tourist. Pauline also called this a dating movie for times of lowered expectations. Working Girl. This is my favorite, Mississippi Burning. And admittedly, Dangerous Liaisons was one very good movie that was nominated for Best Picture that year. So in the next few minutes, I'll be laying out 5 reasons why Slugs the movie should be an Oscar-nominated film. No single element is a commonality in all Oscar films, of course, but each point I'll mention has recurred on numerous occasions throughout the history of the award. It's my hope that the sheer rhetorical force of charting these 5 motifs in the context of Slugs the movie will make the undeniably compelling case for its retroactive nod. Along the way, I'll be presenting some fascinating slug facts for your pleasure and illumination. So let's begin at the beginning, the script. The Oscars love an adaptation. The vast majority of Oscar films are adaptations, and here are just a few examples. This is great news for Slugs, which is in fact an adaptation. It's actually a fairly faithful adaptation, with the main difference being that the novel unfolds in the UK and the movie takes place in the US. And this geographic change does have some significance. Most of the slugs that we see in the film, including these here, are from the genus Arion, which is native to Europe, but not the US. And that's because Slugs the movie is actually a Spanish film. And this, sadly, is a mark against our Oscar campaign, as the Academy rarely nominates foreign films for Best Picture. Here are just a few beautiful European Arion slug sightings from iNaturalist in recent times. But despite this veritable gold mine of slugs in Northern Europe, much of Slugs the movie was filmed not in Spain, but in Lyons, New York. For instance, this stately home you'll see here stood in for the residence of our protagonist, City Health Inspector Mike Brady. Here's Mike and his wife Kim in a scene from early in the film.
Jesus Christ, those things are big.
I told you they were big.
Big, they're gigantic. Damn thing bit me.
That exterior is significant because in the course of production, the crew apparently imported several crates of non-native Arion slugs. How did this happen? Was it legal? we can never know. What we do know is that indeed there are now slugs from the genus Arion regularly reported in the county around Lyons, New York. But I digress. Oscar voters often recognize films that tackle social issues. Slugs the movie is no exception. In Slugs the movie, we are confronted with the double whammy of industrial pollution's toxic legacy and the knock-on effects of unchecked real estate development.
This entire area used to be a toxic waste dump. And not only that, we have a mutant form of killer slug in our water system.
A toxic waste dump?
Yes.
That's bullshit. This man's nuts. God knows what his game is.
My game, as like you would call it, is to save lives.
I'm the only one with chills here. The toxic waste and the killer slugs do not exist in isolation. The one has given rise to the other. The disregard for our environment has birthed nature's own avengers and driven them into a frenzy of slaughter. Normally, of course, slugs do not attack people, but they can certainly be killers. And don't worry, that isn't a piece of flesh, it's a cherry tomato. Of course, many people know slugs as garden killers, chomping slowly but surely away at vegetables and flower beds. And they are indeed chomping because, yes, slugs do have teeth, as you saw earlier in that. And as also seen in this terrifying microscopic image. Here we see a slug's radula, which is an anatomical structure somewhat like a tongue covered with hundreds of teeth that allows it to chew things. But it wasn't radioactive toxic waste that gave rise to this, just evolution. Point 3, redemption. The Oscars loves a tale of redemption, a character rediscovering love and or a sense of moral, spiritual, or artistic purpose. Slugs the movie is rife with themes of redemption, particularly as embodied in our co-hero, Don Palmer. Don here works for the local sanitation authority, and when his town faces the ultimate menace, Don does not lie down and capitulate. No, Don grapples with the moral ambiguity that can only be understood by a civil servant who can no longer abide by the municipal codes that have shaped the course of his working life. He must ignore what's legal and use his knowledge of the sanitation system to do what's right.
Now, these things are coming out of the water taps in my neighborhood. Right. You imagine if they spread to the entire system?
Well, let's get started, partner.
You don't want any more time to think about this.
I don't need to think about it. I've got a wife and 2 kids, too.
Yeah. Slugs also have wives and children. The following visuals may be too suggestive for some of the younger members of our audience, so I'd ask that any children in the room please avert your eyes at this point. All land slugs are hermaphroditic, with both male and female reproductive organs. Here we see 2 leopard slugs displaying some of those organs. Many slugs actually have complex mating rituals, and this species is obviously no exception. They are suspended on a strand of their own mucus, bodies and penises intertwined, transferring sperm masses to one another in a ritual of majestic filth. Most species have slightly more conventional sex lives, as depicted in this image of our friends, the Arion slugs, enmeshing their everted sexual organs from the safety of the ground. But slugs can also engage in a practice called selfing, the term for self-fertilization. I honestly don't know if the individual in this picture is selfing, but it feels as though it could be considering that. Number 4, arty montage. Particularly in recent years, an arty montage is almost a necessity for Oscar contenders. In these flourishes of directorial genius, ego, time is condensed, an athlete trains, a composer rises to fame, a courtesan prepares for her day among the nobility. Unsurprisingly, Slugs was ahead of its time in this department. In the following clip, you'll see montage as representative of mental coalescence. The pieces begin to fall in place for our protagonist, Mike Brady. Yes, his name is Mike. Is Slugs the movie working on multiple levels here? Is it a stretch to wonder if the montage, the artistic glue adhering one mental or temporal leap to the next, is meant to echo the physical slime trails leading to Mike's ultimate revelation? While you think about that, I'll just mention that slug mucus is a contrivance, like the montage, with incredible properties. It consists of about 97 to 99% water, with the other 1 to 3% made up of things like polymers, proteins, and metal ions. This combination creates an incredibly complex fluid with non-Newtonian properties. What are those, you might ask? Well, their mucus is actually a liquid crystal. Its molecular structure is somewhere in between a liquid and a solid. When the slug is in motion, the slime is a liquid. At rest, it acts as a solid glue, adhering the slug to a surface. Of course, we've already seen how some species disgustingly use mucus in their reproduction. Different concoctions of slime are also used for defense, digestion, and excretion. What else is there in life? Finally, our last and perhaps most compelling piece of Oscar bait, the moral compass. Oscar voters delight in a character of lower socioeconomic status functioning as the moral core of a story. Consider the prescient scenario at the heart of Slugs, the movie. When business leaders, law enforcement, and the mayor refuse to do what's right, it's up to our heroes, a sanitation worker, a health inspector, and a high school science teacher, to defy the authorities and save the town.
You ain't got the authority to declare happy birthday. Not in this town.
Slugs also have no authority. They are denigrated as slimy, gross, and disgusting. And despite that, their biology has the potential to save human lives. Slug slime has served as inspiration for sutureless wound repair, dental adhesion, and drug delivery mechanisms. Researchers have investigated slug learning to understand more about neuronal computation and complex cognitive processes. They have built a slug robot. These simple tubes of flesh contain multitudes. Throughout their evolution, slugs have faced down threats like predation, the desiccating effects of sun exposure and drought, and the small-minded, regressive pettiness of politicians. The Academy wasn't the only governing body to snub slugs in 1988. That same year, the California governor vetoed a bill to name the banana slug the official state mollusk. It is not representative of the international reputation California enjoys, he stated. Well, fuck you, Governor. Because last year, it would finally crawl into acceptance, established as the state slug in California Assembly Bill 1850. In case you are wondering, New York does not have a state slug. Once we have successfully secured the retroactive nomination for slugs, we'll begin some exploratory polling for the New York slug issue. In conclusion, when selecting clips for this presentation, I had to navigate carefully, as there are many scenes I felt were too powerful. Although some might call them disgusting or upsetting, or say things like, "How do I get my money back from this free event?" I hope you'll see them for yourselves one day soon. Most importantly, I hope I've made the case for Slugs, the movie's much-deserved and long overdue recognition by the Motion Picture Academy of Arts and Sciences. To any Oscar voters here in the audience today, thank you in advance for sending the email you've been drafting in support of this effort to your fellow Academy members. Thank you. Yes. Favorite slug? I mean, the banana slug is cool. I certainly, it's also one of the few I've seen in person other than the invasive slugs. I will admit, I don't think it was truly the production Slugs, the movie, that introduced the Arion slug to, if you widen the map, they are invasive in a lot of North America. I think they have come over through landscaping and like all the other reasons that we have non-native species enter our borders. But I did really like that. I'll quickly go back. The blue slug, which I learned about, which are from, a lot of slugs evolved in Europe, which I learned, which is partly why they're such menaces to vegetables and fruits, because that's also where a lot of our domestic produce evolved from. That blue guy, those are from Eastern Europe. They're pretty cool, I have to say. And the yellow guy with the red thing on the back is from Australia. And that's where they're unusual because that red area is where their nematostome, their like breathing hole is. And with a lot of other slugs, it's on their side. Slugs are asymmetric, which is pretty cool.